Welcome back to our Arbitrary YouTube channel. Today's class we'll be learning how to make this beautiful off-shoulder cowl sleeve with cuff. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to make this sleeve, it's a cowl sleeve. I'll be drafting my off-shoulder pattern and then we're going to be manipulating that pattern to form our sleeve. So I have a tutorial on how to draft an off-shoulder sleeve already on the channel, but if you don't know how to, we're just going to rush this. So the sleeve length that I'm working with is 22 inches, but because I'm adding a 5 inches cuff to this, I'm just going to leave it at 17 inches. That's 22 minus 5, and then I'll add 1 inch extra for it, so that's going to be 18 inches. So I'm going to measure 18 inches and then I'm going to make this into a straight line. So the next measurement I need now is my armhole measurement. The round armhole I'm working with is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8 inches. So now from my center fold, this is going to be my fold point. I'll measure 8 inches and then I'm going to make this into a straight line also. So I have this space to work with. So now to form your off-shoulder sleeve, depending on how off you went on your bodies or from your center fold area, now on the upper part I'm going to measure 4 inches, and then on the underarm area here I'll measure my cap's height. So the cap's height ranges from 3 to 4 inches depending on how big the person is. So I'm working with 4 inches, and then using my curved ruler I'm going to connect this like this. So I have my off-shoulder sleeve formed. Ideally, if you're making an off-shoulder sleeve, you should shape this hem. Okay, so to shape it, you just need to take the round measurement on where this sleeve is going to stop and you input it and connect it. But because I'm still going to gather this into my cuff, I don't need to shape it. I'm just going to cut this out directly like this. So we have our off-shoulder sleeve. The next thing is for us to manipulate this off-shoulder to get our cowl sleeve. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this out. So if you check the thumbnail, the sleeve has like an excess which makes it drop really. Okay, so like I was explaining, you can see that there are some places around the underarm area, which is here, which is the underarm here, and the sleeve has like an excess. The round armhole measurement, the exact random measurement was not used, so we're going to be adding excess to it so that our cowl is going to drop down, and also we are going to be adding slash lines here so that we can gather this on the underarm area. So to do this now, I'm going to be adding slash lines on this, and it's going to stop on my underarm. So remember, when I was drafting this, I used 4 inches as my cap's height measurement. So that's 4 inches. I'm going to measure the 4 inches here so that I can have like a straight line. So here I'm making my 4 inches, and then I'm going to connect it. So I know my slash line is not going to go beyond this line. Okay, so I want to have like 3 slash lines, so I'm just going to be dividing what I have here into 3. So I'll measure 1 1/4 here, and also 1 1/4, 1 1/2 here. Just divide it, and then I'm going to connect this. So this is going to divide this into 3 for me. So I have this and this, so you can label this 1, 2 and 3, and then this is your center fold. So I'll cut this now and spread this directly on my fabric. I'm using this satin fabric for this work. So I have my fabric like this, and then I'm going to fold this into 2. Remember, this is just a half scale sleeve. So my satin is folded into 2 now. The first thing I want to note is the excess that I'm going to include in my sleeve so that I can drop really well for me. So now this excess depends on how open you want your sleeve to be and how low you want it to drop. So usually between 2 to 5 inches, I'm just going to be working with 3 inches. So now from my fold point here, I'm going to measure 3 inches. Okay, you can see the folded area. So from here I'm going to measure 3 inches. Okay, so I've measured 3 inches from my fold point here, and then using my ruler I'm going to chalk it so that I can see it very well. Okay, so this is going to be my excess, and like I said, it can be more than this if that is what you want. So the next thing is for me to place my sleeve on this. Remember, I said I'm going to be slashing this directly, so this fold point here is what is going to be on your fold point. So you can hold this with a pin so that it's going to hold it in place for you. Okay, so after pinning this, the next thing is for me to start slashing and spreading my lines. So I'm going to slash the first one. I'm just pinning it so that it's going to be in place and I don't want to lose any pattern. So I'm going to slash the first one here, which is the one directly under the arm, and then I'm going to spread it. So it depends on how much you want to spread it. That's totally up to you. So for me, I'm going to measure 2 inches, and then after the 2 inches I'm going to place it here. Okay, and then I'll pin it. So this is the same thing I'm going to do to the other two. So I have my number 3 pinned like this. So the next thing is to slash the second one, and then I'll measure the same 2 inches. So after slashing it, I'll measure the same 2 inches and then I'll place it. I hope you can see this. I'll place it here also, and then I'm going to pin it. So I'll repeat the same thing for the last one. So for the last one, I'll take my tape measure now and measure the last 2 inches, and then I'm going to place it here, and then I'll pin this. So I've introduced enough volume, so you don't have to make it 2 inches. You can just make it 1 inch or 1.5 inches depending on what you want. So now my slash lines are pinned. The next thing is for me to connect this back to the other part of my sleeve. So I'm just going to do this using my regular free hand like this. I'll connect like this and connect to meet this. So after connecting, I'll take my fabric scissors and cut what I have out. So after cutting this out, the next thing is for you to notch where, because you're going to be pleating this back like this to meet what we have. Okay, so we'll pleat this like this, we'll pleat this like this, and then we'll pleat this like this, so that it can give us what we started with, our actual measurement. So to know where to pleat, I'm just going to notch all these important places before I remove my paper. So just notch it a little bit so that this is going to guide you on where to pleat. And then I'll take this to the sewing machine. Now I can remove my paper, and then I'm going to take this to the sewing machine now, and then I'll pleat it just the way I have shown us. So I'll remove this now, and then I'll open this up, and then I'm going to pleat it. So I have my notches here. So I have the first one is coming from here to here, from one notch to the other. Okay, so you hold it in place now from one notch to the other, and then you hold with a pin. So you move to the next one. You can see the notches from one notch to the other. You hold with your pin, and then the last one you go from one notch to the other, you hold with your pin. So the same thing we did here, I'll go over to the other side and follow the same way you pleated it. You cannot pleat this downwards and pleat the other side upwards. So the same direction that the first one goes, the second is going to follow suit. So I'll pin this, move to the next notch and pin, and then I'll do the same thing for the last notch. so you can have more notches. You can also gather it back to your actual measurement. I just chose to pleat this, so I have this now. So I've gone ahead to hold that down with a stitch. You can see that I've stitched on that part that was pleated, and then also on the upper part I decided to use my actual fabric to hem it in. So I just got a long strip of fabric and I use that to cover the rough edges. You can also use a bias. So I have it neat now. The next thing is for us to work on the hem. So to work on the hem, we're going to be cutting out our curve. Okay, like I said, I want my curve to be 5 inches long, so the length of the curve is going to be 5 inches. Okay, so I will take my tape now and then I'll measure the length. So because I want this to be doubled, I'll just put my fabric on fold before measuring my 5 inches. So now I've put it on fold, and then I'm going to fold it like this, like I folded into 4. So the hem is going to be covered like this. I don't want any seam line here. So now the next thing is for me to measure 5 inches and half, because I need a ½ inch to sew it back to my actual measurement. So you can just measure 6 inches. So after measuring the 6 inches, I'm going to make it into a straight line, and then I'm going to measure where my 17 inches stop, around here. So I'll take that measurement round, and I have 9 inches. So that's going to be the measurement for the upper part. That's 9 inches divided by 2, and that's going to give me 4½. So I'll add 1 inch seam allowance to it, and I'll have 5½. So I have 5½ inches here. Then the next measurement you need is your curve, is your round your curve. And if I take that measurement now, I have around 8 inches. So I'll put that on fold also, and then that's going to give me 4 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. So I have 5 inches, and then I'm going to connect this and cut out. So after connecting like this, I'm going to cut this out. So I'll arrange it well, and then I'll cut out my curve. So I have my curve like this. So the next thing for me to do now is to bring in my actual sleeve, and then I'm going to gather this sleeve into my curve. So this is my full curve measurement. I'm just going to notch the midpoint to guide me when I'm gathering this. So this is my midpoint. I'll also notch the midpoint of my main sleeve. So now what I'm going to do now is to gather all of this to fit into this curve that I have here. So I'm going to be gathering this to fit into this. Then after gathering it to fit, I'm going to sew it on the underarm. So I've gone ahead to sew in my curve. Now you can see my curve and my fabric has been gathered into fit the curve. So this is what my sleeve is looking like now. You can see our excess cowl here. So now the next thing is for me to take the underarm together like this, and then I'll go ahead and sew it with the 1 inch allowance that I left. Okay, so you're going to stop your sewing on your underarm here. Remember, we have our underarm which we're going to be sewing to our armhole. So now from the underarm, I'm going to sew it downwards, and then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to sew my underarm. I'll just turn this out now and we'll see what we have. So I'll take it to the mannequin to show us what this looks like. So this is the full view of the sleeve. This is the curve area, so you just need to weave the rough edges. This is the curve area, and then this is just going to drop down on our sleeve and our arm after sewing this to the armhole. So I'll take this to the mannequin now to show us what this looks like. Okay, so this is what our sleeve is looking like. You can see the extra 3 inches that I added here. So if you want it more, you can add more, and these are the cowl effects that we have on the side of the sleeve. So this is the curve of the sleeve, and this is what the full view of the sleeve is looking like. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.